Hello and welcome to Hugh's Reviews, the place for movie views and spoiler clues. You know, the one thing I didn't expect walking into this movie was an audience so bored people fell asleep. Yeah, I'm not kidding, that actually happened. The Godzilla franchise has taken a long, winding, and sometimes silly road to get to this movie. The original Gojira in 1954 was a cautionary tale about the proliferation of atomic weaponry couched in a kaiju movie. Kaiju, if you didn't already know, are giant monsters like Godzilla. Over the years, the property mostly became known for some of the most enjoyably silly monster movies Japan ever produced, featuring magic, robots, and a giant turtle with a rocket up his butt, with an occasional overseas-only release that most of us here in the States have never heard of. They were a lot of fun, but for the most part, social commentary they were not. In the 90s, Roland Emmerich took a shot at Americanizing the series by making a bit of a guilty pleasure I refer to as Ferris Bueller's Jurassic Park. It was dumb, but I had fun even if it wasn't much of a movie. In 2014, when America tried again, the trailers promised a dark and gritty return to the series' spiritual roots with Bryan Cranston as the contemporary voice of foreboding reason. What we actually got was a bland slog with boring characters replete with trailer quotes, a couple of good money shots to satisfy the kaiju fan camp, and a dash of depth thrown in at the last possible second. Yeah, it had its moments, but the movie that wasn't that great. That brings us to 2019's Godzilla, King of Monsters, and all I can say is, better luck next time? King of Monsters, well, it's an unattractive, boring movie, written and directed by people who don't seem to understand a 3-act structure or how to earn emotional investment, despite having done much better work in the past. Now, the plot, as I understand it, is as follows. In the years since Godzilla last appeared, the secretive organization Monarch has been studying the Titans. Their lead scientist, Dr. Vera Russell, has built the Orca, a device capable of communicating with the big beasties. Everything's going according to plan when suddenly an eco-terrorist group led by the malevolent Jonah steals the Orca and takes Dr. Russell and her daughter hostage. Their plan? To unleash the Titans on the world and return the planet to its natural order. Something about their plan rings a big purple-chinned bell. Anyway, when Eleven's estranged alcoholic dad finds out, he joins up with Monarch to go and get his family back. But Daddy has his own agenda. He wants all the Titans destroyed because Godzilla killed his son. Meanwhile, Godzilla is getting ready to re-emerge. The government's trying to take over Monarch, and the clock is ticking to save the day before the terrorists can carry out their nefarious schemes. Vera Farmiga, Millie Brown, Charles Dance, and Kyle Chandler star in Dude, Where's My Kaiju? If this sounds interesting, it's because it could have been. But unfortunately, the concepts of structure, character development, and intelligence, as well as timing, are thrown right out the window. And instead, the audience is force-fed things they're told to care about, but actually don't. Not enough focus is given to building the characters into identifiable avatars for the audience, and motivations shift for the stupidest reasons at the stupidest times. Okay, actually, no. The shifts aren't stupid, they're just dull. Not given any build or weight, and so you're just left going, wait, why do I care? If it's dumb you want, you'd have to turn to the movie's understanding of basic science, where even my usually forgiving nature was strained. In a goofier movie, I wouldn't have cared, but this one seems to think it's a drama. I won't go too deep into spoilers, but Godzilla is apparently the only thing in the entire ocean that makes noise. The key to the Orca's alpha frequency was groan-worthy, and if you get a chance, look up the terms nuke the fridge and fry the Coke to see why I laughed out loud at the end of the movie. And even that laugh was more painful than fun. There's one unalterable law when it comes to making movies. Hey, just don't be boring. Either make a movie that is so pants-on-head crazy that I have a good time laughing, thank you, Tommy Wiseau, or make a movie that is at the very least entertaining, if not great. Just don't cut it down the middle and leave me wishing I'd spent my time organizing socks. This movie made me wish I had more socks. That is not to say that the movie is awful, but rather just forgettable. It's neither bad enough to be good or good enough to be good, and it repetitively pounds the audience from frame one until they are so numb that by the time we reach the climactic battle royale, It's not so much a finale as more of the same pounding. And I know this is supposed to be a spectacle of a ride, and we're just here for the monster fights. Yeah, okay, but think of it this way. Imagine a really good fireworks show. There's a few little bursts of light, a dramatic build-up in the music and the variety of fireworks styles and colors, and then, after the tension and delight are properly teased to their peak, the finale, full of every imaginable color, stretched across the sky, a crescendo of sight and sound pulsating through your eyes and ears, filling you with a childlike awe and wonder. Now imagine that fireworks display starts with the finale, and for the next 2 hours it's the same finale, in the same 3 colors, to the same 3 seconds of music, repeated over and 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 over again, so that by the time you reach the big finish, no matter how grand the show, you're just kind of tired and your eyes and ears hurt, and you're begging for it to end so you can go home and go to bed. That's what it was like watching this movie. The color palette was ugly, the characters were boring, the lackluster dialogue is delivered in either strained, gritty whispers or tired disinterest. There's nothing but monologuing and exposition throughout the entire thing. There's only so many ways I can say boring without it becoming mundane in and of itself. So, here's a thesaurus list. Uninteresting, dull, tedious, dreary, tiresome, lackluster, wearisome, humdrum. Getting the drift yet? But in the end, most folks watching a Godzilla movie just want to see the monster fights, and I'm right there with them. While those abound in aplenty, the director seemed to know how ugly his digi-creatures were, because the fights are shot in a way that makes sure you see as little of them as possible, and not in a good way. The characters are ugly, the camera is unnecessarily shaky, and everything is always obscured with rain, smoke, or fire. Not artfully placed for atmospheric tension, but specifically hiding the unattractive CG. And it's all color-coded a skid-marked brown or washed-out gray. One creature even creates a giant storm anywhere he goes, so there's an excuse to always have darkness and rain shielding us from every visual effect. Which is a decision so blatantly lazy that I wondered if they stole it from a straight-to-streaming sci-fi movie. I should not be reminded of movies made by Asylum Pictures as viewed through a dirty dog dish when watching a $100 million major release. Asylum movies may be crap, but at least they're colorful. If you're hoping for a bright ray of sunshine on this fart-colored cloudy day, I will say it's not all bad. The acting is actually pretty decent, and at least one character has a true arc. Ken Watanabe, for instance, may be stunningly underused, but his powerful presence occasionally shines through, and he features in the movie's one truly beautiful personal moment. Most of the movie, however, feels unearned and misunderstands why those elements are supposed to work. It comes across as though there was a 4-hour two-parter in here, and it just got sliced down for time. Eleven's character, yeah, I know her name's Millie Brown, but I'm going to keep calling her 11. Well, she could have been cut out entirely, and it would have had almost no effect on the movie. Just make the mom the emotional linchpin, and it would have been fine. Actually, it might have made it better. Yet there was also so much extraneous garbage in here that had no payoff that the term throw stuff at the wall to see what sticks comes to mind. The sequel-bait introduction of the other monsters was also pretty underwhelming. For promising us 17 different titans, we're shown 4 in proper action. That's so they can tease the sequels. Ugh. The recycled footage from Kong Skull Island was especially jarring considering they used multiple shots from that movie, but never once gave us a good shot of Kong himself, even though they seem to be acting like that's the build-up. What are you, saving him for the sequel? Give us something of fun to look at now! What's extra baffling to me is the comparisons people keep making to the old Toho movies. This movie is to the Toho films what a day-old tuna sandwich is to cotton candy. It's soggy in the middle, dry at the edges. It'll give you a little indigestion, but even that will be forgotten by tomorrow. The Toho films were bright and goofy fun. This, it just isn't. Look, in the end, the movie isn't as bad as I'm making it out to be, okay? It's just not good enough to get off the couch for. Wait for it to come out on Netflix. Don't bother with the multiplex. And please, don't leave a pile of garbage in the aisles like the guy who sat next to me. I hope that guy gets eaten by a kaiju. On a side note that I cannot help but mention because I just want to be a fanboy for being a fanboy's sake, I loved watching Charles dance as Jonah because he starred in the woefully underappreciated satirical comedy Last Action Hero. I know everyone else is screaming, "What about Tywin Lannister?" But you know what? This is my show and I like Last Action Hero, so pfft. I love you, Mr. Dance, and I'm ecstatic to see you brought to the fore of Hollywood. I hope you get all the dues that are due to you and that your next movie is more worthy of your talents. Well, that's it tonight for Hugh's Reviews. Tonight's episode was underwritten and requested by the amazing folks at Moons of Vega Photography. Just ask for Rob and tell him Hugh sent you. See you at the movies, and as always, happy viewing.